I carried her grocery bags 3 blocks in the pouring rain. 6 heavy bags for an old woman who could barely walk. She invited me inside her apartment for tea and wrote something on a piece of paper. When I read those words, I broke down crying. 3 months later, she died. Then a lawyer found me living under a railroad bridge with news that shattered me. She'd left me $500,000 and a letter that explained everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Who was this woman?
What did that note say? Why would a wealthy stranger leave everything to a homeless man? Sit back and discover how one simple act of kindness became the most profound gift of my life.
My name is Thomas Reed. I'm 42 years old, and I've been homeless for 3 years. I sleep under the old railroad bridge on the south side of town where freight trains rumble overhead every few hours.
My home is a sleeping bag I found in a dumpster and a blue tarp that leaks when it rains hard. I own 2 changes of clothes, a backpack with my belongings, and a photo of my daughter Emma that I keep in a plastic bag to protect it from water damage. I wasn't always like this. 3 years ago, I was a high school English teacher. I had a house in the suburbs, a wife named Jennifer, a daughter I saw every day.
Then Jennifer asked for a divorce. She'd been having an affair with someone from her office for over a year.
The divorce destroyed me financially and emotionally. I fell into depression so deep I couldn't function. I missed work, stopped eating, stopped caring.
The school board let me go. I couldn't afford rent.
My family had cut ties with me years before over old arguments I can't even remember now.
So I ended up here, invisible to everyone who walks past.
I carried her grocery bags 3 blocks in the pouring rain. 6 heavy bags for an old woman who could barely walk. She invited me inside her apartment for tea and wrote something on a piece of paper. When I read those words, I broke down crying. 3 months later, she died. Then a lawyer found me living under a railroad bridge with news that shattered me. She'd left me $500,000 in a letter that explained everything. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Who was this woman? What did that note say? Why would a wealthy stranger leave everything to a homeless man? Sit back and discover how one simple act of kindness became the most profound gift of my life. My name is Thomas Reed. I'm 42 years old and I've been homeless for 3 years. I sleep under the old railroad bridge on the south side of town, where freight trains rumble overhead every few hours. My home is a sleeping bag I found in a dumpster and a blue tarp that leaks when it rains hard. I own 2 changes of clothes, a backpack with my belongings, and a photo of my daughter Emma that I keep in a plastic bag to protect it from water damage. I wasn't always like this. 3 years ago, I was a high school English teacher. I had a house in the suburbs, a wife named Jennifer, a daughter I saw every day. Then Jennifer asked for a divorce. She'd been having an affair with someone from her office for over a year. The divorce destroyed me financially and emotionally. I fell into depression so deep I couldn't function. I missed work, stopped eating, stopped caring. The school board let me go. I couldn't afford rent. My family had cut ties with me years before over old arguments I can't even remember now. So I ended up here, invisible to everyone who walks past. Every morning I wake up when the 6 a.m. freight train shakes the ground beneath me. I fold my sleeping bag, hide my backpack in the usual spot behind a concrete pillar, and walk to the public library when it opens at 9. The library is warm and dry. I can use the bathroom to wash my face and hands. Sometimes I read books, mostly classics I used to teach. Shakespeare, Steinbeck, Fitzgerald. The words remind me of who I used to be. Around noon, I walk through downtown collecting aluminum cans from trash bins. On a good day, I make $10 or $12. On bad days, nothing. There's a soup kitchen that serves dinner at 5 p.m. That's usually my only real meal. The rest of the time, I'm just trying to stay invisible. People don't like seeing homeless people. It makes them uncomfortable. Mothers pull their children away. Business people cross the street. I understand. I probably look frightening. My beard is long and tangled. My clothes are stained and torn. My hands are always dirty no matter how much I scrub them. but I didn't know that a rainy Tuesday in October would change my entire life. It was late afternoon, and the sky had opened up with cold autumn rain. I was walking back from the library toward my bridge when I saw an elderly woman struggling outside the grocery store. She was maybe 75 or 80 years old, small and frail-looking, wearing an elegant navy coat that was getting soaked. She had 6 grocery bags on the ground around her feet. She'd pick up 2 bags, take a few steps, put them down, go back for 2 more. Her hands were shaking. She could barely manage the weight. People walked past her without stopping. Everyone was in a hurry to get out of the rain. I stood there watching for a moment. I had nothing. No money, no home, no future. But I still had hands that worked. I walked over to her. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said. "Can I help you carry those?" She looked up at me, startled. Her eyes were a clear blue-gray, sharp and intelligent. She took in my appearance quickly. The wet beard, the torn jacket, the worn shoes held together with duct tape. "I'm going 3 blocks that way," she said carefully, pointing down the street. "It's quite far." "I can manage if you'd like," I said. "I don't mind the rain." She studied my face for a long moment, then she smiled slightly. "That would be very kind," she said. "Thank you." I picked up all 6 bags. They were heavy, full of canned goods and boxes and fresh vegetables. She pulled out a small umbrella and opened it over her head. She was too short for it to cover both of us, so I stayed in the rain. We started walking slowly. She moved carefully, 1 step at a time, using a cane I hadn't noticed before. The rain came down harder. Water ran down my face and soaked through my jacket. "Are you sure this isn't too much trouble?" she asked after the first block. "No trouble at all," I said. "Take your time." She looked at me curiously. "What's your name?" she asked. "Thomas," I said. "Thomas Reed." "I'm Eleanor Richardson," she said. "It's nice to meet you, Thomas." "Likewise, ma'am," I said. Little did I know those 3 blocks would lead to the most important friendship of my life. We walked in silence for another block. The bags cut into my hands, but I didn't complain. Eleanor moved slowly but with dignity, her head held high despite the rain. At the 3rd block, she stopped in front of an old brick apartment building. 4 stories, probably built in the 1920s, elegant in a faded way. "This is me," she said. "4th floor, I'm afraid. No elevator." "I can carry them up," I said. She looked at me again with those sharp eyes. "You're very kind, Thomas," she said. "Most people wouldn't stop." "I'm not most people," I said, then immediately felt stupid. That sounded arrogant, but Eleanor smiled. "No," she said softly. "I don't think you are." She unlocked the front door, and I followed her inside. The lobby smelled like old wood and furniture polish. We climbed the stairs slowly, Eleanor pausing every few steps to catch her breath. I kept the bags balanced carefully so nothing would spill. On the 4th floor, she unlocked apartment 4B and pushed open the door. The apartment took my breath away. It wasn't large, but it was beautiful. Hardwood floors, tall windows with heavy curtains, antique furniture that looked well cared for. Bookshelves lined every wall, packed with leather-bound volumes. Framed photographs covered every surface. The place felt lived in and loved. "Set them on the kitchen counter, please," Eleanor said. I carried the bags into a small kitchen with white tile and copper pots hanging from hooks. I placed the bags down gently. Eleanor was taking off her wet coat. "You're soaked through," she said, looking at me. "I'm fine," I said. "I should get going." "Nonsense," she said firmly. "You carried my groceries in the rain. The least I can do is offer you tea to warm up. Please sit down." She gestured toward the living room. I hesitated. "Ma'am, I appreciate it, but I'm pretty wet." "I'll ruin your furniture." She waved her hand dismissively. "It's just furniture, Thomas. Sit." There was something in her tone that made me obey. I sat carefully on the edge of a floral armchair. Anyone witnessing this moment would be breathless at the kindness being offered. Eleanor disappeared into the kitchen. I heard water running, the click of a gas stove, the gentle clink of cups and saucers. I looked around the living room. The photographs were everywhere. A young couple on their wedding day, probably from the 1960s. A baby in christening clothes, a boy growing up through the years, school photos and birthday parties, a young man in a college graduation gown. Then the photos stopped. No more recent pictures of the young man, no grandchildren photos, just the boy frozen in time at maybe 22 or 23 years old. Eleanor came back carrying a tray with a teapot and two delicate china cups. She poured tea into both cups, added sugar to hers, and handed me one. It was the first time in 3 years someone had served me something in a real cup, not a paper cup from a soup kitchen or a plastic bottle from a trash can. Real china with tiny painted flowers. I held it carefully, terrified I'd break it with my rough hands. "Drink," Eleanor said. "It'll warm you up." I sipped the tea. It was hot and sweet and perfect. "Thank you," I said quietly. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Eleanor spoke. "Tell me, Thomas," she said, "how did you end up on the streets? If you don't mind me asking." I minded. I always minded. But something about Eleanor made me want to answer honestly. "I was a teacher," I said. "High school English. Got divorced, fell into depression, lost my job. Couldn't recover." She nodded slowly. "And your family?" she asked. "My daughter lives with her mother 2 states away," I said. "I haven't seen her in 3 years. My parents died when I was young. No siblings. It's just me now." Eleanor looked at the photographs on the wall. "I understand loneliness," she said softly. "My husband died 15 years ago. Cancer. My son David died 10 years ago." She pointed to the young man in the graduation photo. "That's him. My only child." "I'm very sorry," I said. "What happened to him?" Eleanor was quiet for a long moment. "He had mental health issues," she said finally. "Depression, anxiety, couldn't hold down work. He became homeless when he was 28. I tried to find him, looked everywhere, hired investigators, but he didn't want to be found. 3 years later, the police called. They'd found his body under a bridge, drug overdose. By the time I got there, he was already gone." Her voice cracked slightly. "I never got to say goodbye. I never got to tell him I loved him one more time." Tears filled my eyes. "I'm so sorry, Eleanor," I said. She wiped her eyes with a tissue from her pocket. "You remind me of him," she said. "The same gentle way of speaking, the same kindness in your eyes. When I saw you outside the grocery store, for just a moment I thought, maybe this is a sign. Maybe I can help someone the way I couldn't help David." I didn't know what to say to that. We sat in silence, drinking our tea. Maybe you face such situations too, when a stranger's kindness cracks open your heart. After maybe an hour, Eleanor glanced at the clock. "It's getting late," she said. "You probably need to go." I stood up. "Thank you for the tea," I said, "and for treating me like a person. Most people don't." Eleanor stood too. She walked to a small desk near the window and pulled out a notepad and pen. She wrote something, folded the paper, and handed it to me. "Read this later," she said, "when you're alone. And Thomas, please come back, next Tuesday if you can. I'd like to see you again." I took the folded paper. "Why?" I asked. "Why would you want to see me again?" "Because you carried my groceries without asking for anything," she said simply. "Because you remind me of my son. Because everyone deserves to be seen. Will you come?" I nodded. "I'll come," I said. She smiled, a real warm smile that reached her eyes. "Good," she said. "Come around 2 p.m. I'll make lunch." I left the apartment and walked down the 4 flights of stairs in a daze. Outside, the rain had stopped. The streets were wet and shiny under the streetlights. I walked back toward my bridge slowly. When I was far enough away, I unfolded the paper Eleanor had given me. Her handwriting was elegant and old-fashioned. It said, "You matter. You are seen. You are not invisible. Please come back. I'm here if you need someone." Under that, she'd written her phone number. I stood under a streetlight reading those words over and over. You matter. You are seen. I hadn't heard words like that in 3 years. Nobody had seen me in 3 years. I was a ghost. People looked through, not at. But Eleanor had seen me. Really seen me. I sat down on a bench and cried harder than I'd cried since the day Jennifer told me she wanted a divorce. Not sad tears exactly. Something else. Relief maybe. Recognition. The feeling of being human again. That night under my bridge I couldn't sleep. I kept touching the folded paper in my pocket to make sure it was real. You matter. Did I? I didn't feel like I mattered. I was a failure, a washed-up teacher living under a bridge. But Eleanor had seen something in me worth saving, something that reminded her of her lost son. The next Tuesday, I woke up early and walked to the public library. I used the bathroom to wash as best I could. I combed my hair with my fingers. I tried to clean my clothes by scrubbing stains with wet paper towels. At 2 p.m. exactly, I stood outside Eleanor's building. My heart was pounding. What if she'd changed her mind? What if she'd just been being polite? I almost turned around. But I'd promised. I climbed the 4 flights and knocked on apartment 4B. The door opened immediately. Eleanor stood there smiling. "Thomas," she said warmly, "right on time. Come in, come in." But what I didn't know was that this weekly visit would become the anchor of my entire existence. Eleanor had made lunch, real food, chicken soup with fresh vegetables, homemade bread, apple pie for dessert. We sat at her small kitchen table and ate together. She asked me about my life, what books I'd taught, what I missed most about teaching, whether I'd read anything good lately. I asked her about her husband, about David, about her life. She'd been a librarian for 40 years, loved books as much as I did. We talked for 3 hours. When I stood to leave, she handed me a paper bag. "Some leftovers," she said, "and clean socks. I noticed yours have holes." I tried to refuse, but she insisted. "Take them, Thomas," she said. "It's not charity. It's what you do for someone you care about." That word, care, hit me hard. She cared about me. This elegant woman with her beautiful apartment and her $500,000 savings, she cared about a homeless man she'd met carrying groceries. The next Tuesday, I came back. And the next. And the next. It became our routine. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., I'd climb those 4 flights of stairs. Eleanor would have lunch ready. We'd eat and talk and laugh. She'd give me small things, a warm jacket, gloves, a new backpack, books to read. I tried to help however I could. I fixed her leaky faucet. I changed light bulbs she couldn't reach. I carried her groceries every week. She started calling me her Tuesday visitor, then her Tuesday friend. Then, one day in December, she called me her second son. I cried when she said that. 3 months had passed since that rainy October afternoon. 3 months of weekly visits. 3 months of feeling human again. Eleanor had become my family, the only person in the world who knew my name and cared whether I lived or died. And I loved her for it. In January, Eleanor caught a cold. Nothing serious at first. She called me on Monday to cancel our Tuesday lunch. "I'm just feeling under the weather," she said. Her voice sounded weak. "I'll see you next week." But Tuesday came and I couldn't stay away. I walked to her building and climbed the 4 flights. I knocked on her door. Eleanor opened it wearing a robe, looking pale and tired. "Thomas," she said, "I told you not to come. You shouldn't see me like this." "I don't care what you look like," I said. "Have you eaten today?" She shook her head. "Not hungry." I went to the corner store and bought soup with the few dollars I had. Came back and heated it on her stove. Made her eat a full bowl while I sat with her. She smiled weakly. "You're taking care of me," she said. "That's supposed to be my job." "We take care of each other," I said. "That's what family does." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Yes," she said softly. Family. The cold got worse. By Friday, Eleanor had developed pneumonia. I found her collapsed on her kitchen floor when I came to check on her. I called 911 from her phone. The ambulance arrived and took her to City General Hospital. I rode with her, holding her hand. In the emergency room, nurses tried to make me leave. "He's not family," one said to another. "We can't let him stay." Eleanor's eyes opened. She gripped my hand harder. "He is family," she said firmly. "He's my son. Let him stay." The nurse looked surprised but nodded. They admitted Eleanor to a room on the 4th floor. Pneumonia complicated by her age and a weak heart. The doctor said it was serious. She might not recover. I stayed by her bedside. The nurses brought me food, let me use the shower in the staff bathroom. I slept in the chair next to her bed. For 5 days, I didn't leave except to get coffee or stretch my legs in the hallway. Eleanor slept most of the time. When she was awake, we talked quietly. She told me stories about David, how he'd loved baseball as a kid, how he'd wanted to be a teacher like me, how he'd struggled with demons she couldn't understand or fix. I told her about Emma, my daughter, how she'd be 13 now, how I wondered if she remembered me. Eleanor squeezed my hand. "You'll see her again," she whispered. "You'll get your life back, Thomas." I believe that. On the 6th day, Eleanor's lawyer visited. A woman named Patricia Morse, maybe 60 years old, professional suit, kind eyes. She spoke with Eleanor privately for an hour. When she left, she looked at me. "You're Thomas Reed?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am," I said. "Eleanor speaks very highly of you," she said. "She cares about you very much." "I care about her too," I said. Patricia nodded. "I can see that," she said. She handed me her business card. "If anything happens, call me immediately. I'll need to speak with you. Those who experience such moments never forget what comes next." On the 7th day, Eleanor woke up clear-headed and calm. She knew. I could see it in her eyes. "Thomas," she said, "come closer." I pulled my chair right next to her bed. She took my hand in both of hers. Her skin was cold and papery. "Listen to me carefully," she said. "I've made arrangements. Patricia has my will. Everything's taken care of. You're going to be fine." "Eleanor, don't," I said. "Don't talk like that. You're going to get better." She shook her head slightly. "We both know that's not true," she said. "I'm 78 years old and I'm tired. I've lived a good long life. I got to meet you. That was a gift I didn't expect." "You've already given me so much," I said. My voice broke. "You saved me. You made me feel human again." She smiled. "You saved me too," she said. "After David died, I had nothing to live for, no purpose, no one to care for. Then you carried my groceries and everything changed. You gave me these last few months of joy. You let me be a mother again." I couldn't speak around the lump in my throat. Eleanor's breathing was getting shallower. "There's a letter," she whispered, "in the will. Patricia will give it to you. Read it. Understand why I did what I did. And Thomas, promise me something. Promise me you'll live. Really live. Get your life back. See your daughter. Don't waste the gift I'm giving you." "I promise," I whispered. "I'll make you proud." "You already have," she said. Her eyes closed. Her hand went slack in mine. The monitor started beeping. Nurses rushed in. I was pushed back against the wall. They worked on her for 10 minutes, but I knew it was over. When they finally stopped and turned off the machines, one nurse looked at me with sympathy. "I'm very sorry," she said. "She's gone." I sank into the chair and put my face in my hands. Eleanor Richardson was dead. The only person who'd cared about me in 3 years was gone. And I was alone again. The funeral was 4 days later at a small cemetery on the edge of town. Just me, Patricia the lawyer, and a priest who'd never met Eleanor. I wore the clean jacket Eleanor had given me months ago, the one nice thing I owned. Patricia read a brief eulogy about Eleanor's life. Devoted wife, loving mother, career librarian, generous soul. But she didn't know Eleanor. Not really. Not the way I did. When Patricia finished, I stepped forward. "Eleanor Richardson saw me when I was invisible," I said. My voice shook, but I kept going. "She gave me tea in a china cup when everyone else treated me like trash. She called me family when I had no one. She reminded me I was human. I loved her like a mother, and I'll miss her every day for the rest of my life. Thank you, Eleanor." for everything. I placed a single white rose on her casket. Then I walked away before anyone could see me crying. I went back to my bridge that night, back to my sleeping bag and my tarp and my old life. But everything felt different now, emptier, darker. Eleanor had been my light, and now that light was extinguished. For 2 weeks I barely functioned. I collected cans mechanically, ate at the soup kitchen without tasting the food, lay awake at night staring at the bridge underside. I kept thinking about her last words. Promise me you'll live. But how? I was a 42-year-old homeless man with no prospects. Eleanor had believed in me, but that didn't change reality. On Tuesday, the day that used to be our day, I walked past her apartment building. I looked up at the 4th-floor windows. Dark and empty now. Some other family would move in eventually. Eleanor's beautiful space would belong to strangers. The thought broke my heart all over again. But what I didn't know was that Eleanor had been planning something extraordinary. 3 weeks after the funeral, I was sitting under my bridge around noon when I heard footsteps. I looked up to see a woman in a business suit carefully making her way down the embankment. Patricia Morse, Eleanor's lawyer. She spotted me and waved. "Mr. Reed," she called out. "Thomas Reed." I stood up. "Yes," I said. "That's me." She reached me slightly out of breath. "I've been looking for you for days," she said. "I asked around the neighborhood, the soup kitchen, the library. Finally, someone said you might be here." "Is something wrong?" I asked. "No," she said. "Nothing's wrong. But we need to talk. It's about Eleanor's will." My stomach dropped. "She left me something," I asked. "I don't want her money. She already gave me enough." Patricia smiled. "Thomas," she said, "we need to go to my office. This isn't a conversation for under a bridge. Can you come with me now? My car is up at the street." I followed her up the embankment and got into her car. A nice sedan that smelled like leather and coffee. She drove us downtown to a tall office building. Her office was on the 10th floor, all glass and polished wood. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Sit," she said. "Would you like water? Coffee?" I shook my head. "I just want to know what this is about." Patricia sat down and opened a folder. "Eleanor Richardson's last will and testament," she said, "executed 2 weeks before her death. She left very specific instructions." She looked at me seriously. "Thomas, Eleanor left you nearly everything she had. Her apartment fully paid off, her savings approximately $500,000, her personal belongings, everything except a few specific bequests to charities." The words didn't make sense. $500,000, I repeated. "That's not possible. Why would she do that?" Patricia pulled out an envelope. "This is for you," she said. "From Eleanor. She wanted you to read it after the will was executed. It explains everything." She handed me the envelope. It was cream-colored, heavy paper, sealed with wax. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were 3 pages covered in Eleanor's elegant handwriting. I started reading. "Dear Thomas," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye properly. But I wanted to leave you with this letter so you'd understand why I did what I did." I took a breath and kept reading. "When David died, I thought my life was over. I had no purpose, no reason to keep going. I was just waiting to die too. Then you carried my groceries on a rainy day and everything changed. You reminded me so much of my son. The same gentleness, the same wounded kindness in your eyes. Over these past months, you became the son I lost. You gave me purpose again. You gave me joy. You let me be a mother one more time. And I realized something important. I couldn't save David, but I could save you." My tears were already falling on the paper, but I kept reading. "This apartment was going to sit empty. This money was going to distant cousins I haven't spoken to in decades. But you, Thomas, you deserve a second chance. You showed me that good people can fall through the cracks. That homelessness doesn't mean worthlessness. You carried my bags and asked for nothing in return. You visited me every Tuesday, even though you had nothing. You held my hand when I was dying. That's love. That's family. So I'm giving you what I would have given David if he'd lived. A home, financial security, a foundation to rebuild your life. The letter continued. I know you'll want to refuse. You'll say it's too much, that you don't deserve it. But Thomas, you deserve everything good in this world. If you also love such mysteries, the final words will break your heart completely. Use this gift to live the life David never got to live. Go back to teaching. Find your daughter. Help others the way you helped me. Don't waste this chance, and Thomas, know that you were loved. I loved you like my own son. You matter. You are seen. You are not invisible. You never were. The letter was signed, with all my love, Eleanor Richardson. Below that, in smaller writing, she had added one more line. P.S. The teacups are in the kitchen cabinet. Use them. Think of me when you drink your tea. I couldn't read any more through my tears. I sat in Patricia's office sobbing like a child. Patricia quietly pushed a box of tissues across the desk. Take your time, she said softly. I know this is overwhelming. I cried for 10 minutes. Finally, I wiped my eyes and looked up. I don't understand, I said. I'm nobody. Why would she do this? Patricia leaned forward. Thomas, she said. I've been Eleanor's lawyer for 20 years. I watched her spiral into depression after David died. She was a shell of herself. But these last few months after she met you, she came alive again. You gave her hope. You gave her purpose. This isn't charity. This is a mother taking care of her son. That's how she saw you. That's what you were to her. Can I see the apartment? I asked. Of course, Patricia said. I have the keys right here. We drove to Eleanor's building. I climbed those familiar 4 flights one more time. Patricia unlocked apartment 4B and pushed open the door. Everything was exactly as I remembered. The bookshelves, the photographs, the floral armchair where I'd sat drinking tea. But now it was mine. This was my home. Patricia handed me the keys. It's all yours, she said. No rent, no mortgage, paid in full. The money will be transferred to a bank account I'll help you set up. You'll need identification, which we'll work on getting. But Thomas, this is real. This is your life now. I walked through the apartment in a daze, into the kitchen where Eleanor had made me lunch every Tuesday. I opened the cabinet above the sink. There were the teacups, delicate china with painted flowers. I pulled one down and held it carefully. I could almost see Eleanor sitting at the table smiling at me. Use them, she'd written. Think of me when you drink your tea. I will, I whispered to the empty apartment, every single day. Patricia stayed for another hour, helping me understand the logistics, bank accounts, identification, utilities, taxes. It was overwhelming, but she was patient. Before she left, she handed me her card again. Call me if you need anything, she said. Eleanor trusted me to make sure you're taken care of. I won't let her down. Thank you, I said. For everything, she smiled. Thank you, Thomas, she said, for giving Eleanor joy in her final months. That was a gift beyond price. That night I slept in a real bed for the first time in 3 years. Eleanor's bed, in Eleanor's apartment, surrounded by David's photographs. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, I'd been invisible. Nobody. A ghost people looked through. Then I'd carried an old woman's grocery bags, and my entire world had changed. Eleanor had seen me. Really seen me. And she'd loved me enough to give me everything. I fell asleep holding her letter against my chest. The next morning I woke up in actual sunlight streaming through windows. I made tea in one of Eleanor's cups, sat at her kitchen table drinking it slowly, thinking of her. Thank you, I said out loud. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for this gift. I promise I won't waste it. Over the next month, I started rebuilding my life. Patricia helped me get a new ID and driver's license. I opened a bank account and deposited the $500,000, more money than I'd ever imagined having. I bought new clothes, got a haircut, and shaved my beard. When I looked in the mirror, I saw Thomas Reed, the teacher, again. Not Thomas, the homeless man. I contacted the school board and asked about reinstatement. They made me go through background checks and psychological evaluation. I passed everything. In March, they offered me a position as a substitute teacher at Lincoln High, same school where I'd taught before. I started in April. Walking into a classroom again felt like coming home. The students were wary at first, but I knew how to reach them. I taught them Shakespeare and Steinbeck, made them think, made them question, made them care about literature, just like I used to. But I didn't forget where I'd come from. With Eleanor's money, I started a program called Second Chances. It provided resources for homeless people trying to get back on their feet, job training, housing assistance, mental health services. I partnered with local shelters and churches. We helped 12 people in the first 6 months, got them into housing, into jobs, into treatment. One man, a former accountant named Robert, told me I'd saved his life. I shook my head. Someone saved mine once, I said. I'm just passing it on. By summer, I'd saved enough courage to contact Jennifer. I called her cell phone number, praying it was still the same. She answered on the third ring. Hello? She said cautiously. Jennifer, I said. It's Thomas. Silence. Then, Thomas? Is it really you? It's me, I said. I'm clean, sober, stable. I have a job and a home. I want to see Emma. Can I see my daughter? Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. She's 13 now, she said finally. She asks about you sometimes. I tell her you're sick, that you needed time. Is that still true? Are you still sick? No, I said. I'm better. I'm really better. I have so much to tell you. We talked for an hour. I told her everything. The homelessness, meeting Eleanor, the inheritance, my new life. Jennifer cried. I'm sorry, Thomas, she said. I should have helped you. I was angry and I abandoned you. You didn't deserve that. We both made mistakes, I said. But maybe we can move forward. For Emma's sake. She agreed. In August, Emma flew out to visit me for a week. I picked her up at the airport and barely recognized her. She'd grown tall, with Jennifer's dark hair and my blue eyes. She was cautious at first, staying quiet. But I took her to museums and bookstores, cooked her meals in Eleanor's kitchen, showed her the photo I'd carried in my backpack all those years, her third-grade picture, faded and worn. This story reminds us that we never know whose life will change with one small act of kindness. Eleanor needed someone to help carry her groceries. I needed someone to see me as human. We saved each other. She couldn't save her son David, but she saved me instead. And in doing so, she taught me that everyone deserves dignity and second chances. That wealth isn't about money, it's about love and purpose. Eleanor gave me both. Now I honor her memory by helping others the way she helped me. Every morning I drink tea from her china cups. Every Tuesday I visit her grave and tell her about my week. Every day I try to live the life she believed I could have. What lesson did you gain from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.